I wish to share with you a game that was quite exciting and a bit hairy. And I've just played it on Blitz Chess. So here we go. Let's have a look at this game. I hope you enjoy it. It was a bit topsy-turvy. And please note my rating's gone down. It's gone down to 21.45 sort of thing. I've got 6 points for this, so it's at 21.51. That's because I've lost some games. So you can go have a look at them. I've lost quite a few games actually. So here we go. So this was round 1 in this tournament, a 3-minute tournament that started to time date 10 minutes ago. So it's hot off the press. I wasn't very comfortable with this move c5 because I think here black could play b6, and it's not exactly ideal, is it? I think can't play knight c6, so maybe that's what he didn't like, and that could be possible. I don't know. But now it is possible b6. So I hid from this diagonal here for where my rook's sitting on pre. If I take that b pawn, which the way I'm playing, I probably could take that b pawn. So rook f1, queen f1, and now I'll bother attacking my pawn as well as maybe going to play rook f8. So I played queen f4, and my opponent has a choice of swapping, but objected to that. But guess what? b6 coming up very shortly. Here's b6, you see. So now, what do I do now? What would you do? I mean, I'm not saying that this is a problem you can work out from here or puzzle, but I played h4. And I can't actually see my moves because I've hidden them from view. Should have Tigger on the other side of the picture, shouldn't I? That's what I should be doing. Why don't I do that? That'd be more sensible. b6, okay, we're going to take that. And now we have to go h5, which doesn't amount to anything because I have to look after this rook b3 threat. So here I play rook c2, rook b3, rook c5. So I'm looking at this a pawn, of course, and I'm also asking the queen to use her energy to defend this a5 pawn, I think. I think that's what I'm doing. Queen c7, so here it comes. So I played queen g5, rook b4. So it looks like I'm just going to get cleaned up on the queen side. And this a pawn is just going to be a runaway. Okay, fair enough. That's what it looks like to me. Hope it looks like that to you too. So here's h6, bishop g5, g6. He didn't have to play that, but he did. Well, if he plays his bishop away, he has to play it. But he's not going to play the bishop anywhere anyway, because what I'm talking about is I can play rook c6. If the bishop wasn't there, I'd be threatening rook c6 now. Look at the comfortability of my king on h2. Okay, so it looks quite comfortable, doesn't it? Bishop g6. So what sort of move would you play? I mean, like, I played a certain move. I don't know if it's any good or not, but I played it as I played knight h5. And so here I'm just threatening the pawn on g7, of course, twice with the knight and pawn. So here comes bishop h5, fair enough. Queen h5, the only time in the whole game I'm threatening checkmate in one move. I'm threatening Queen e8 checkmate, so black responds to that. Black has to also watch the c6 pawn. There seems to be some meaning to my madness, but maybe not. g6. Okay, now I've got what I can remember from a long, long time ago, a potential pass pawn here. I mean, if I only had a queen versus a king only, and I had no king, then and the king was over here, I'd take this and start marching it. But this is a potential pass pawn. And it's also a good mating threat, and it's also stopping black from going to g7 with their king. Okay, so think about that. Keep concentrating on that. And now I can play things like here and here. So I can play queen here and here. And thereby I'm threatening rook c6 and queen g7 checkmate. Yay. Or queen e6. But black's got good moves here. So here's queen g5. Rook a4. Ouch. Queen f6. Now I threaten rook c6 maybe. Or queen e6 check. Or something like that. Okay. So I threaten that now. And so what happens? Rook a1 check. And now, even though the knight has gone off the planet, king h2 is looking quite comfortable with these rock solid pawns, preventing the access of the queen to this diagonal. Otherwise I'm in trouble, which I probably am anyway. Okay, so now black has to be very wary of this move here, rook c6. So black plays queen f7. So they're actually offering me the pawn on c6. But what about this a pawn, I hear you say? Well, just remember what I just said before, is this pawn is a potential pass pawn, especially if I get rid of h7 pawny. So I go queen d8. There's no madness to my madness. There's no idea to queen f8 and rook c6. This is my only chance, is to get in behind Fred, to get this h-pawn, to threaten queen, rook c8, and rook here, and wallop. So that's what I'm threatening. So I think my opponent played a4. Yep, so I play rook c8. Rook c7 check. This is very good for you to see endgames in process. Okay, this is actually from my game. Now I've got what I was trying to explain to you the other day in one of my sessions. Now I have got an absolute 7th rank, as Aaron Nimzovich would say. I can also get behind this pawn, okay, to this square. I can get behind the pawn. Always, in every way and every time. I've said this a few times. Every time when you're playing a rook and pawn endgame, get your rook behind the pawn, whether it's a pass pawn, whether you're the defender or the attacker. Always get your rook behind it, not in front of it. The worst place for this rook to be is in front of the passed a pawn. And so, anyway, to reiterate, this is an absolute 7th rank. The rook can, if the rook and king were only on the board and nothing else, okay, all these things are off. Let me just say I've got a king here, which will end up in checkmate. But this is an absolute 7th rank, because the king can never ever come onto any of these squares, yeah? So the king can never come onto that square, 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 or that square, because of the rook is having an absolute 7th rank. Now the beauty of this is that if I can make this a horizontal vertical, it's going to be checkmate, but the rook's in the way. So let's just move on with the final moves of this game. So I get behind the passed pawn, not in front of it. If I get in front of it, I'm sitting here with my rook, and black sitting there with their rook or along the A file. Okay, so this is the best place to be, and notice this wee pawn. It's 2 squares away from checkmate. And that's it, really, isn't it? My opponent played for some reason that variation, and so I hope you enjoyed that wee game. Bye for now.